Welcome to Fathers and Daughters, a podcast where we discuss important topics and current issues from a biblical perspective that are relative to fathers and daughters.
Please subscribe and email us at fdpodcast@yahoo.com with questions or episode topic suggestions.
We're back.
Welcome to episode 16 of the
Back
Fathers and
again.
Daughters podcast. Today,
Guess Shady's back.
today
Tell a friend.
we're going to talk about okay,
Okay, for the second, it sounded like you were starting with like the intro to Star Wars, and then it turned into the graduation ceremony, and then it became a wedding.
It's the wedding march. Today we're talking about weddings.
I think for the amount of weddings that you do, you need to go back and re-listen to like what the wedding march is supposed to be.
That's what it sounds like. But today we're talking about weddings. I know it's a weird father-daughter topic, but for us, it's something that we do a lot.
We live and breathe weddings.
Since we started doing weddings, we've done, hundreds of weddings.
Yeah.
Every type of wedding. We've done Star Wars weddings. We've done country weddings.
Baseball weddings.
Baseball-themed weddings.
Goth weddings.
Persian weddings.
That one was really fun.
Chinese weddings. I've even done a lesbian wedding.
Yeah, it's gotten interesting. We've done everything.
A lot.
Done a lot of weddings.
And throughout that time, we've seen do's and don'ts. So that's what we want to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm gonna sniff a lot because I'm getting over a cold, and your stupid fan won't shut off.
I know. I need to change this fan.
And so I'm sorry. I'm just getting sicker as the longer I sit in this room.
It's okay.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Or do you want to just go back and forth?
I wrote down some stuff, but before we get into weddings, I want to talk about a couple things. First, I want to give a shout out to Tyler.
Oh gosh.
What?
Nothing.
Your friend Tyler.
You're indulging him. It's weird.
No, I think he's really cool.
It's fine. Go ahead.
What's wrong with Tyler?
Give your shout out.
I really like Tyler.
I'm really glad you really like Tyler. My friends just have this weird connection to you, and it's weird.
He came up to me this last week, and he said, I just want to tell you that I listen to your podcast all the time, and I recommend your podcast to other friends. And I thought that was really cool.
I agree with you.
I thought it was really cool because he's not even a dad, right?
Agreed.
He's not even a dad. And
agreed. Tyler's just a weirdo. I love him.
But
I love him.
It's kind of cool that we have single guys listening to this podcast that someday they're going to have a daughter.
Agreed.
And, you're just picking up stuff that they can use with their daughter in the future. Isn't that cool?
Yes, I agree with you. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it's not his comment. It's the fact that you have this like weird thing with all of my friends. Like all of my friends love you way more than they like me.
Your friends are cool.
I'm just jealous. It's fine.
Anyways, Tyler, you're awesome.
The holiday armadillo loves you. And that's an inside joke that we will get into when we talk about birthdays.
I'm the holiday armadillo.
Stupid. Okay,
Anyways,
let's go.
Okay, no, second thing. We've reached 500 downloads.
Holy crap.
On our podcast, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, I don't really care for numbers because this podcast is just for us. But I like seeing that because I just want to know, like who's downloading, who's listening.
I had a random security guard at an event I was doing this week, and I'm just running around like doing my stuff with the event that I'm working at, and this like random security guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey," it's like, "What's up, man?" He goes, "I listen to your podcast." I was like, "That's freaking weird."
Really?
But that's cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
It's really weird. So shout out to the random security guy.
That's cool. So we already have over 500 downloads, and we've gone beyond the U.S.
Whoa.
Right, so as of earlier today, 4 downloads from Ontario, Canada. I don't know what that's about, but thank you. We love you. 2 downloads in Western Cape, South Africa.
South Africa.
Talking about South Africa. Shut up.
Also, why are you doing that thing with your hand?
I don't know.
You're making this awkward like tea time okay sign with your hand while you're talking.
I know. So talking about South Africa, my first roommate in college was from South Africa. Weird, huh?
That was random and unnecessary. All right, keep going.
13 downloads in Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh, thank you.
13. I wonder who that is. If you're listening to us from Nairobi, Kenya.
Can you please send us an email?
We want to know who you are.
I want to know who you are.
In Ontario, in South Africa. We just want to connect with you guys.
But really the person from Kenya.
Yeah. One download from the Netherlands.
Oh, it's lit.
Another download from Gujarat, India. And 7 in Australia.
Wow. Okay. If you're from Australia and you're listening to this podcast, please send us an email. I want to come visit you.
All I know in Australian...
Australia's on my bucket list.
All I know in Australian is Foster's phobia.
What the heck does that mean?
I know they speak English, but they have this cool Australian accent. And I just love it.
Then what are you saying?
Australian phobia, Foster's. It's just a beer. It's just a beer. It's just...
Oh, it's the name of a beer?
Yes.
Okay, why didn't you lead with that?
Foster's. Oh, and the Wiggles. We love the Wiggles.
You're stupid.
The Crocodile Hunter. What was his name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Remember? Crikey.
Crikey.
I love the alligators, mate. But yeah, I love Australians.
Okay, those of you who don't know my dad, you are the worst ever at accents. Like,
I know.
There is not one accent that you can do right.
I know.
Except...
Not even English.
You literally are the worst at accents. I'm sorry, but I gotta humble you a little bit here. You are so bad at accents.
I agree with that. I can't speak English, and my Spanish is horrible. So, I don't know. I just make it through life communicating any way I can. But yeah, if you're from any of these countries outside of the U.S., send us an email. Let us know how you found us. We would love to know. With that, I want to recap your week. You had a very good week.
I had a really crazy
And that's why we haven't recorded in like a week, because you had a very busy week.
Yeah.
So you led and organized a big event at church.
I did. I organized a 3-day conference for
youth.
Our youth ministry, and we had just under 800 students show up.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
And I was there with you the first couple nights because I played music for the kids,
which was
before
such a blessing.
and after.
Thank you.
Hey,
you got a talent.
Well, I just love making people dance.
It was so much fun. The lobby was packed. We had so much food. We ran a snack bar. We had to run all the programming that happened inside. We had Josh Griffin come out and speak. He was amazing. Our youth leader, Justin Knowles, spoke. And then Pastor Matt Brown spoke our third night. We had around like 150 to 200 kids make a decision for Christ on the third night. It was crazy. We did a survey actually night 2 that was really powerful, where every kid took a 30-question yes or no survey, every single kid. And then we collected all those surveys, shuffled them, and then redistributed them all out. So they were anonymous. They'd have their name on them. And then Justin read the survey from stage and said, please stand if one of these things applies to you. And so it was literally like you're holding someone's survey, like you're holding somebody else's life. Mm-hmm. And they asked you to stand if the answer to that question was marked yes. So you were literally representing another body in the room.
Yeah.
And it was just questions like, are you adopted? Are your parents divorced? Do you struggle with self-image? Do you struggle with substance abuse? Do you struggle with sexual sin? Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? Like all of these questions, and just to see kids stand and literally represent someone else in the room was so powerful.
I know the first night was very emotional for you, and I got emotional too, seeing you emotional, because you worked so hard at this, and I bet for you it was really cool to see what your hard work did and how many kids came and had the opportunity to hear about Jesus.
Yeah.
That's where all the work is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you and I got emotional in the lobby, and I talked about how, we can clearly see how Satan has been trying to poke and probe at our family, throughout the years and trying to destroy it, to try and avoid work like this. The same emotion that you got after seeing all those kids there, that's the same emotion I got when I helped organize the advance and man school and all that stuff. And it's just so exhilarating, and you want to do more of that because you can clearly see that God is using you for something. And once the people are there, it's not your job to get them to make a decision or to get them to accept Christ. Your job is just to get them there, and then let God do it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a really cool weekend. It was a very exhausting weekend. It was 4 12-plus hour days. And then the cleanup and the setup, just all the moving pieces that go into it. It was very, very tiring.
I think one of the coolest things was that your brother was a part of that.
Oh, that was so cool.
And, out of nowhere, he's like, I want to go to winter conference. And just everyone is so welcoming, and he loves Sandals Youth. And, he asked to go, and he just loves to worship and everything. So I remember the first night praying that God would speak to him that week. And I don't know, it's just kind of hard to gauge with him because he doesn't communicate just like most kids, and you kind of have to pull stuff out of him. So it was kind of neat to see that.
But it's cool getting to see my peers and my people just come alongside him and just take them under their wing. And like one of my really good friends, Chris, he's a dad and a husband and a really good one. And he just takes Ryan under his wing. And he had no idea Ryan was there. And I went up to Chris and I said, hey, my brother came. And he goes, where is he? He dropped every single thing he was doing and went looking for Ryan.
He's really cool. I was sitting with him in the back the first night. I didn't want him to be out there by himself. And then Chris came over. He's like, can I take him to go hang out with the other guys? I'm like, yeah, go. And he just went, and he did great. Yeah. And it was great to see him dancing the last night and having fun with Avery. So it's kind of cool.
He had a blast.
All right, let's talk about weddings.
Let's talk about weddings.
Okay. This is a topic that we know a lot of. Yeah, so if you are planning your wedding, or if you know someone who is planning their wedding, this is a podcast that you need to listen to or you need to recommend. Yes. And I know we're not going to answer all the questions in, 30, 40 minutes because we just have a lot of information and we've seen a lot of disasters and a lot of great things. So
I got 2 inquiries for a wedding today.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 different events.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I spoke to one of them. I was recommended by the wedding I did this last weekend.
Yeah, I talked to him today.
So that was cool.
All right, let's do this. I'm ready.
All right. So I want to call this episode Wedding Do's and Don'ts. All right. So the first don't, and these are in no specific order. Okay. Don't try to save money by having your
quote friend
or aunt. I was going to say crazy aunt.
You can say crazy aunt.
Don't try to save money by having your crazy aunt be your wedding coordinator.
Amen.
Invest in getting at least a day of coordinator because it's worth it. If you can't afford to hire a coordinator to plan your whole wedding from beginning to end, at least get someone who you're going to pay to run the wedding that day.
I'll just say this. I believe that you as a bride can plan your wedding, but you cannot organize your wedding. They're 2 very different things. All the pre-planning work, all of the before work, I fully believe you can do that. But you yourself cannot organize the day of your wedding. You are in a wedding dress. You have one mission that day, and it is to marry your husband. That's it.
You need someone to be in communication with your vendors, to take care of your schedule, to pay your balances, to
set everything up, to tear everything down, coordinate with all your people. Like, let someone else do that, and don't let it be your family member. You're not honoring them by making them do something else that day. Next.
Don't count on your DJ to do that.
Amen.
We've done that so many times. And I think we care so much about our clients that we just step into the role. And I think it's easy for us because there's usually 2 of us working and we know what we're doing. And you usually step into the day of coordinator role because we don't want to make work difficult for us. Yeah. So we end up doing that. But
that's not our job.
Well, and not all DJs do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like some weddings have been successful that could have gone wrong because of the extra work that we do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just spend a little extra money and get yourself a day off coordinator.
Okay, next.
Can you tell I'm very hyper today?
A little bit, yeah.
Right?
How much sugar did you have?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I'm just very excited about this topic.
I love that.
Because it's part of our life. Okay, second one. Don't try to nickel and dime by getting a budget DJ and a budget photographer.
Yeah, I would say if there's 2 things in a wedding to spend money on, it's your DJ and your photographer.
The saying that a DJ can make or break your wedding is totally true.
Agreed.
What about the photographer? I mean, if you
have crappy photos, you're going to have those crappy photos forever.
Yes.
Like if there's one thing, I would even say that over a DJ, honestly. Like the DJ is going to create memories, but your photographer is going to give you things for the rest of your life.
Yeah. if you get a good DJ and a good photographer and they work well together,
You're golden.
half of your night is
Heck yeah.
good.
Done.
So invest in a good DJ and a good photographer.
Yes.
Next, do not neglect your vendors.
Amen.
That's a big don't.
Your vendors literally put on your whole event. The people who work at the venue, the people who are making your people dance, the people who take your photos, the people who serve your alcohol, everyone. These people are literally the ones orchestrating and pulling the strings to your wedding. If they don't like you, they have the ability to make your event bad.
They can mess up your
They
whole
can mess
wedding.
up your whole wedding. I've definitely met some vendors for specific venues who have not been very nice. It's the same thing with your waiter. Like, you always want to keep your waiter happy, you know, right? There's this saying that like your waiter can sneeze or spit on your. It's the same thing with your wedding. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing with your wedding. If your vendors don't like you, they have the ability to screw up your wedding.
Yeah.
I don't think they should. I'm not saying that. That's ethically not right. But they have the ability to do that, so why not keep them happy? Feed your vendors. Yeah. That is one really nice thing you can do. And I get it, your plates are expensive, but those are the people you want to keep happy. Provide a specific table for your vendors and feed them.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. And when I say don't neglect your vendors, I'm not saying don't be a Brazilla, because we've dealt with some Brazillas. You know,
but they feed us, and I'm like, all right, you're good.
But in general, be nice to your vendors. And I think that relationship starts from the time you first meet them and you exchange information and everything. And I feel that as a DJ, I get a little closer to my clients than, let's say, the bartender or the caterer, because we spend a lot of time planning their music. And I feel like that's the same with the photographer. But I want to talk about certain things that are important and that show your vendors that you're a good client.
Okay.
You mentioned dinner. We've been to numerous weddings where we're not even offered a plate of food.
And the reasoning behind us saying that is that there have been times where we do weddings where we have to be there and be set up by 1 o'clock. And we don't get to tear down or go home till 11:30 at night. That's 10 hours without food. And we can't just leave. Like, we're doing your event. And it's just courtesy to feed someone who's spending that much time working your wedding. And I've heard a lot of people argue this and be like, well, we're paying you. Yeah, you're paying me, but that doesn't mean you can't treat me nicely. Feed your people.
It's just common.
It's
just courtesy. And
sadly, it's not common.
Well, right. It's just courtesy.
It's courtesy.
This is where your day off coordinator comes in, because this is something that you don't have to worry about. And if you have a good coordinator, they'll make sure that all the vendors are fed and taken care of so they can take care of your guest.
Honestly, if you don't want to pay $65 to give us a meal, don't worry about it. But DoorDash, Chick-fil-A.
There are some venues that offer vendor meals, and they're not the same food that they offer their guests, but they just, have simple food in the back just so the vendors don't starve. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying give me your filet mignon or, whatever fancy dinner you're having, but we're there for a long time. So make sure I have something to eat,
Yeah. If you had a waiter who was waiting on you for 11 hours that day, isn't it rude to not feed that waiter? Like, make sure that waiter eats too.
And most of the time we don't even eat that much because we're busy all the time. But it's
nice to have the option.
One of the best wedding coordinators out there, and we mentioned Celine before, she always makes sure that the vendors are fed during that cocktail hors d'oeuvre time. Mm-hmm. That way, when the bride and groom come in and the reception starts, everyone is energized and ready to go.
Even when it's not a wedding, she makes sure we eat. We do a 4th of July party for her every single year. And even at that party, it's not a wedding, she makes sure that we eat. And I love that.
Yeah. Tips. How do you feel about tips? Tips are not required.
Tips are not required.
We never expect tips.
No.
But it's kind of nice when people say,
It's just a nice gesture by saying thank you for putting a little bit extra effort into making sure we had a good time.
Here's a card and $20 or whatever.
Whatever. It's just nice to get hey, I noticed that you did your part to make sure we had a really fun wedding. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you had a DJ or a photographer, someone who maybe did not do a very good job, then probably not a good idea to tip them. But there are people out there that go above and beyond to make sure that your event goes well and to make sure that you feel loved and you feel taken care of. And those people deserve to get tipped.
Yeah. and keep that card and tip in your back pocket until the end of the night. And if they did a good job,
give that tip to your day of wedding coordinator and make her do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep it in your back pocket.
Love it.
Until you know they did a good job. Balances. I've done a few weddings when I go up to the client at the end of the night and I say, how do you want to take care of your balance? And then they're like, I don't have it right now.
Or they turn to their father-in-law and watch him pull out his wallet and expect them to pay.
I think that is so
it's disrespectful,
unprofessional and disrespectful.
Agreed.
So in order for you to avoid that, assign someone who's going to go around and pay your vendor balances.
So our contract states that you need to pay half when booking, and then you need to pay half before or on the day of. To me, I hate having things hung over my shoulders. I'm sure that if I can afford it, when my wedding comes around, I would much rather just pay it all up front. You know, obviously, if you can afford it. If you can't afford it and you need to wait till the day of, then yeah, you need to schedule someone to do it for you. I'm a huge Friends fan. I love that show. And there's an episode of Friends where Monica and Phoebe start a catering company. And when they do the catering company, their first one's a funeral. And they didn't settle their payment. And Monica goes out there and talks to the widow about settling her payment. And the widow goes, oh, Frank used to handle the finances. And then starts bawling her eyes out. And Monica goes back into the kitchen and tells Phoebe, like, oh, I couldn't get she started crying. And Phoebe goes out into the living room, and the widow's out there singing and playing the piano for everyone. And she's like, obviously she's not that torn up about it. And Phoebe goes out there and goes, listen, lady, like, we did a service and we deserve to get paid. And the lady's like, oh, what? And she's all weird about it. And Phoebe goes, listen, we provided a service and you ate that service. So therefore we need to get paid for it. And it's the same process. Like, just pay your people so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. There's been many clients who pay everything in advance. And they say that is so liberating and it's something that we want to do so we can just enjoy our night.
Yep.
I DJ'd a party where at the end of the night, the client was just wasted. So I went up to the client and I said, how do you want to settle your balance? And she could hardly carry out a conversation. She's like, do you accept Venmo? I'm like, yeah. Thinking, can you even do the transaction? And she handed me her phone. So I ended up paying myself from her phone.
Oh, that's funny.
So that was not very enjoyable.
But we did have one recently where we did a wedding and we asked the groom, who was also pretty wasted, like, oh, how would you like to settle your payment? And he goes into his wallet, which is just full of $100 bills, and then just adds extra 3.
Okay, that was good.
He just added an extra 2 on and was like, oh, well, here you go. So just know that, like, if you do that, you could make that mistake.
Yeah. All right, another don't. Don't put the DJ far from the dance floor. Don't put DJ in the corner.
Nobody puts DJ in a corner.
Discuss your floor plan with the DJ in advance. I think the DJ should have enough experience to help you where to place them in order to avoid like loud music over guest tables and a good placement in order to create a good environment. There's been a few weddings where we're tucked in the corner and then the dance floor is right in the middle with tables surrounding the dance floor. So it feels like you have to project over people and you just don't have that connection in relationship with the guest. Do you agree?
100%.
100%. Good. Don't drink too much before the ceremony.
Don't drink too much in general. I don't care what kind of drunk you are. I don't want to deal with you.
We've done some weddings.
I hate dealing with drunk people.
Where the wedding party is drunk before the ceremony even starts.
I have had to pry beers and shots out of people's hands just so they can walk down the aisle. Like, come on.
And the way you can avoid that is just prepare your wedding party in advance and set the expectations. I mean, unless you do that yourself, right? Next, don't think about just yourself. I think even though the wedding is about the bride and the groom, there's a lot of elements in the wedding.
Agreed.
And I see that with music many times when the bride and groom like a certain genre of music and they're a bit unique and they want to listen to that music at their wedding, but that is not the type of music that their guest might enjoy or dance to or have fun with.
The common saying among brides, like, this day's about me. Then why are all these people here? If it's just about you, why are all these people here? Sure. It's about you and your people. Like, the only reason that they're there is to celebrate with you It's not just about you.
Think about them as well. Think about things that are going to make them feel included and welcome and important as well. A couple of things that come to mind with that is the venue. There's a lot of brides that have this idea of, oh, I want this certain venue. And then the day of the wedding, the guests don't come prepared to walk around the dirt because the bride wanted the wedding in some type of farm venue, and you see the old aunt or grandma walking in the dirt.
Yeah, we did this wedding a while back, and they were from Riverside. Like, the couple themselves were from Riverside. And we did a wedding that was an hour and a half on our way to, like, San Diego, which was an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
Into the mountains of Temecula that was on a dirt farm. Like, it was a legit farm. And it was one of the most dirty, and, like, nothing was paved. And it was dirty, and it was sticky, and it was just, you walked around just feeling gross. And they had porta potties. And I was like, I couldn't wash my hands. It was just disgusting. And I was like, I would not want to be a guest at a wedding like that.
Or if I was the guest, I would have liked to have been prepared.
I would have worn my cowboy boots and brought a pack of wet wipes.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up porta potties because that's also on my list right here.
Okay.
I have seen some awesome porta potties that I go in and I'm like, oh, this is nicer than my
luxury.
bathroom, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that are pretty cool. That if you're going to bring porta potties, that is the thing to bring. But then I've seen other events where they just bring like the
ones
blue
look like they just came
construction.
from Coachella.
Yes. So think about your guests when you do stuff like this. I wrote down shade, and I was thinking about that when I was thinking about venues.
Let me just say this.
Yes.
Be very careful with what you pick for your venue. Typically, doing it at someone's house is really hard. Unless you have a house that's specifically built to host mass events like this. Like, there's a house really close to where we live, and that house has a barn in the back that is specifically designed to host weddings and events. Great, go for it. But if your backyard is meant to swim and barbecue and that's about it, probably not the best to have your event there. We've also done some weddings where it was 113 degrees outside and they had no shade.
No shade.
Think about your guests. Think about the time of year you're doing it. The wedding day is just not about you. We can leave it like that.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Don't freak out if something doesn't go as planned.
Let me tell you right now, there will always be something that doesn't go as planned. I hate when people say, my wedding day was perfect. No, it wasn't. Something went wrong. You probably just didn't know about it because you had an awesome wedding planner who cleaned it up for you. Something will always go wrong. That's just the truth. That's not being negative. That's just the truth. Something will always go wrong. Now, if you get a really good day of coordinator, they're probably going to clean it up for you and you'll probably never know. Mm-hmm. But something will go wrong. We've seen people forget shoes, lose rings, whatever. Like, there's always something that goes wrong. And this is something I definitely don't want to ever do myself, is I'll never say my wedding is perfect. Because something will always go wrong. I'm just going to say it was perfect to me.
Well, as the person that steps in to fill in those shoes of the day of coordinator when they don't have one, you've dealt with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Where you've had to clean up a lot of stuff that just doesn't go as planned. And sometimes the bride and groom don't even notice that there was that.
Like, a perfect example is one of the last few weddings that we did. It was at someone's house, and the best man forgot his tie. And we're all lined up ready to go. And this guy, he comes over and he goes, I don't have a tie. And we're like, oh, great. The bride's lined, like, we're ready to go.
Well, the groom wanted to send him back to the tuck shop.
It was like, we were minutes before walking in the alley. He's like, we have to go back to the dress shop. I was like, no, don't worry about it. And I ran over to you and I went, give me your tie. And you took off your tie.
No, we
went to
a guest.
Yeah, I went over to a guest. That's right.
That had a tie that kind of went with it.
And I was like, hey, I need your tie. And he's like, why? And I was like, because it needs to go on the best man who's in the wedding. I'll give it to you right afterwards. And he totally took off his tie and I went and put it on him. And they're like, that was genius. I was like, no, it's what works. And the bride never knew.
Yeah, the bride never knew.
Had no idea.
No, but even if stuff happens and you notice, just have fun. I tell my clients this all the time when we meet. We put together a schedule just to keep us on track. We may be 5-10 minutes off here and there, but as long as everything happens that we plan for and you guys have a great time, then it's a successful night.
Yeah.
You just got to be flexible.
I had a bride
and
one
enjoy.
time have hot sauce spilled on the train of her dress. And it was on the train, praise God. But she's freaking out and she's losing it because she had already bustled her dress, which is where they pick up the bottom part of the dress, the long part, and they pin it to the top of the dress so that it looks like the dress is all one length. And she got hot sauce spilled on the back of it. And she's freaking out and losing her mind. And I remember I went over to the bride and I went, hey, it's okay. Your pictures have already been taken. You're 10 minutes from leaving. It's not a big deal. And she's still losing her mind. And so I went under her dress and I flipped the bustle and I bustled it from the inside. Because it's a fun fact, you can actually do that. And I went back and I bustled it from the inside of her dress. And she's like, it's a little uncomfortable. And I was like, yeah, but you only have to wear it for 10 minutes. And no one ever knew. Like, there's ways to fix things.
There's tricks.
There's tricks and tips that you can do. Next.
Those are the only do's and don'ts that I wrote down. But there's so many. More. We may have to revisit this later.
Heck yeah.
But I have some questions for you.
Okay.
I mean, after doing this for over 15 years, can you believe that?
A long time.
We've done this for over 15 years. I'm sure we have some interesting experiences. So I have a couple questions for you. And I know you have some questions for me. So how about I ask you a question and you ask me a question?
Okay.
What is your favorite wedding song?
My favorite wedding song is probably Lucky by Colby Calais and Jason Mraz.
Really?
I love that song. It's just about being in love with your best friend. I think that's so beautiful. I love that song. Okay, so this kind of corresponds with my question. What song do you now hate because of weddings?
I hate 1,000 Years.
And 1,000 more.
I hate it.
I hate
because
that song too.
So many brides use it for their ceremony.
I hate Marry You by Bruno Mars.
Yeah. And you hate Sweet Caroline.
I hate Sweet Caroline now. And I used to love that song and now I hate it.
I hate Uptown Funk too.
The list goes on.
Funniest wedding memory. No, not funniest. Funnest.
Funnest? We did a Persian wedding where they had a 28-course meal that we got to partake in.
It wasn't that much. It felt like it.
No, it was 28.
It was like 12, but it was a lot of food.
It was so much food, and they were big and over the top with their decor, and it was just so fun. And we were just immersed in their culture, and just the family vibe and the family dynamic was so fun and so exciting. So we did that one. We also did one out in the mountains of LA. We did like a Chinese traditioned wedding, and they had the dragon dancers come and do the dragons at the wedding. That was really cool.
That was really cool.
The most unique wedding request that you've ever had?
It's not a song. It's when people come up to you that are guests and they say, my aunt or my grandma would like to sing a song to the bride and groom.
I hate that.
And you just have to say, sorry, but, you got to talk to the bride and groom about that. As far as music, I've gotten everything.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
At this point, it would be really hard to pick the most awkward request. What is your wedding pet peeve?
Oh, there's so many. That's just the truth. There are so many wedding pet peeves. The first one that comes to mind is when people ask to sing. That's really frustrating. I hate when people ask to sing. I can't stand when people expect that we're going to facilitate moving things along.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's not the DJ's job. The DJ's job is to play music, not to get the next thing ready to go.
Well, I kind of have to disagree with you on that one.
Why?
Because that's...
It's my pet peeve.
Well, hold on. Because that's what makes us good DJs. And we are the best wedding DJs you can hire. Because we don't just play music, but we're a part of your whole night experience.
Okay, then can I change my answer?
I think what you're thinking is when you get stuck being the wedding coordinator.
Yes.
Because I don't mind working with the wedding coordinator to move the night along.
Okay, then my biggest pet peeve is when people don't hire a day of coordinator and expect me to do it.
Yeah.
That's not my job. That's not what I'm being paid to do. That's somebody else's job that they should be being paid to do. If you want me to do that job, pay me to do that job because it's not my job. I love doing it, but it's not my job.
I turned down a wedding recently where they wanted to pay the same rate that they paid us for the sister's wedding, and they wanted us to do the same job. And during that wedding, you pretty much did like $2,000 worth of work that they did not pay for, and we only did that so our night would not suck. Yeah.
So I hate that. I also hate when the bride or groom get drunk.
Oh yeah,
I think it's really sloppy. I think it's irresponsible. I just think it's like it's just sad. Like, that's upsetting for your spouse. But I mean, like, you married him, so, or her, so who cares?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where you have to go look for the groom that's outside smoking.
Yes. Oh, that's so irritating.
Cut the cake. Anyways.
What's the funniest wedding toast that you remember?
The funniest wedding toast was...
Are you going to tell the one about the kid?
What the kid? No.
I'll tell that
There was a wedding toast where a guy said, my wedding toast is going to be short, just like tonight is going to be very short for you, or something like that. Just referring to how their sex night was going to be very short.
That's awesome.
And that was awkward at the moment.
That was so funny.
There was like an awkward moment of silence.
Because all the old people were like,
he did
what?
not. Yeah, and then other people were like, he did not just say that. You know, he did not just throw shade at the groom.
That's so good.
But I thought that was hilarious.
We had one a while back where mom was getting remarried and her son was the best man, which was so sweet. And this kid was not more than 9 or 10. And he gets up there to do his best man speech and he goes, I'd like to thank 805 for sponsoring this event.
That was funny.
And there was just this uproar of laughter. I thought that was one of the funniest toasts I've ever heard.
Remember when the maid of honor dropped the F-bomb?
Oh, that was so bad. The maid of honor got hammered and got out there and just dropped this huge F-bomb in the middle of her toast and then goes, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So don't drink too much before that.
Your turn.
I was going to ask you about your best wedding meal, but I think you're going to say that Persian wedding.
No.
No?
That was the best experience.
Okay.
Like being fed.
Uh-huh.
My best wedding meal. We had a couple a few years ago have the In-N-Out truck
That was fun.
at their wedding, and they just gave everyone a ticket, and you just got to go and get In-N-Out, and that was probably the best because we just weren't expecting that. We were given a ticket when we very first got there. Like, each of us were given a ticket and said, "Oh, here's your ticket for dinner," and we're like, "Oh, it's probably a buffet or like a taco guy or whatever," which were also super great. But then, like, right as we were finishing cocktail hour, you just hear this truck roll up and you look over and it's the In-N-Out truck and it's just this inhale of because everybody was just so excited and we got to go eat first and so we were the first ones to go up to the truck. It was glorious. So that's my favorite wedding meal.
I think everyone was wondering, like, what are they going to serve for dinner, because there's no movement, and then this big ass truck pulls up.
It was awesome. What's the most commonly missed wedding element?
Wait, can I go back and answer my favorite meal?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
My favorite meal was the paella.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, because it was different.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, and your grandma ended up getting that for their anniversary this last year.
They came with these like 4 foot by 4 foot like pans that sat on top of a grill. And they just mixed paella. It was so cool. It was so fun.
And they cooked it there.
And they cooked it right then and there in front of you and then served you your portion. It was really cool.
That was yum. This last wedding I did, they had a churro truck for dessert.
Oh,
and they were
so
like
fun.
legit churros. You know, like the ones you get at the border. Yeah.
We did a wedding down in Temecula where they had a soft serve stand. And they just served everybody soft serve. I thought that was so fun.
That was cool. I love those unique
or like something this is a wedding tip. Here's something really cheap and simple is a s'mores station. And you just provide a whole bunch of skewers, marshmallows, chocolate, and graham crackers. You can do it all for under $50 and you just have a fire put out and let people make s'mores at your wedding. Like, what a fun, easy dessert to do. We also did one where they did pie instead of cake. That was super fun. Yeah. We've done everything, but that was really fun.
Yeah. For real. So if you're getting married and you need a day off coordinator, Isabelle would be your best day off coordinator.
I had a lot of fun.
She has seen everything.
Hit me up.
All right. What was your question? The most missed element.
Most commonly missed element for weddings.
For me, when I meet with couples, I feel like the majority of couples don't think about how to dismiss their tables in an orderly fashion when they're having a buffet dinner. because, they just think, oh, we're going to feed our guests, but they don't think about the logistics and the organization that goes into dismissing 150 guests for dinner at the same time, and that you have to have some type of order.
System,
Yeah. And a lot of the times, I say, how are you going to dismiss your tables? And they're like, oh, we haven't thought about that. I'm like, yeah, you don't want everyone to get up at the same time and get food. So I feel like that's a big miss. Yeah. All right, last question.
Okay, I'm on my last one too.
So okay. So this is my last question. What are some things you have seen at weddings that you would like to incorporate in your own wedding?
Oh, this is good.
Like 2 or 3.
I love to dance. Dancing's super fun for me. So, but when I dance, I don't typically like to wear high heels when I do that. And something that I've seen done very well is brides will put a basket in
I was going to say the same thing.
Like in their ladies' room full of like cheap sandals, like
Old Navy sandals.
Old Navy sandals that are $1, $2, that you can color coat with your theme. And women can take their shoes off and not get their feet all nasty. And they can wear sandals. And in that little basket, they can put feminine products, hairspray, deodorant, breath mints, like do a little bathroom basket for your guests to experience. So that's super fun. Something else that I've seen really cool is again, just an awesome dessert element. Have a fun cut cake for you and your husband that you get to cut and take pictures with. But then do something fun. Do something different for your guests. Like, I love the soft serve. We've seen people do donuts. We've seen people do chocolate fountains, churros, like all of the things is super fun. So I definitely want to do some kind of like fun, awesome element in there too.
I saw that basket in the bathrooms this last weekend, where they had like mints and cologne, Band-Aids and stuff like that, that guests typically don't bring with them, but then when they're there, they wish they had.
Something logistically that I hope to do for my wedding is a first look.
Oh, yeah.
They always say that you're not supposed to see the bride before the wedding or it's bad luck. First of all, I don't believe in luck. Secondly, I think it's one of the best ideas ever to get ready earlier in the day, 2 hours before you're supposed to be ready, and to do all of your wedding photos before your wedding. Why not get it all done? I would much rather that hour and a half after my ceremony just get to be spent with my family.
We did a wedding where the couple was gone for 2 hours after the ceremony.
Because they wanted to go somewhere and take photos.
Yeah, it was 2 hours, and the guests were just done by the time they came back, and that was not fun.
I've also had a couple have their wedding, not do photos, and then get ready again a few days later, like put the dress on, put the suit back on, and do all their photos. And I'm like, what a pain.
Yeah, especially if you spill something on your clothes.
Just do it beforehand and then let your dress get trashed.
Yeah. No, I agree. What's your last question?
My last question is, what is the best wedding fail that you've seen?
The best wedding fail, or I think it's the worst wedding fail.
The best worst wedding fail.
The best worst wedding fail. For me as a DJ is when the power goes out.
And listen, it is not always the DJ's fault.
It's usually never the DJ's fault. When the power goes out or when the generator can't handle it.
Don't even get me started on generators.
That venue where we do a lot of weddings, and the first time I got into it with the venue owner because the generator crapped out in the middle of people having a good time dancing, and the first person they look to is the DJ. And then you feel like crap. And you're saying, it's not my fault. So after the wedding, I got into it with the venue owner, and I said, what's going on with your generator? It's like, well, sometimes it just can't handle it. Like, oh, so this has happened before?
Fault?
Yeah. I'm like, you do this for a living. You rent this venue out. If this has happened before, fix it.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's bad for your clients.
Yeah.
I hope that my conversation with him prompted him to either get a better generator or
to get his crap together.
Yes.
As a wedding coordinator, the best worst wedding fail that we've seen happened on Valentine's Day a few years ago. And we had a couple get married and not bring enough. Not have enough seating and not have enough food for all their guests. And families brought families. And there was 100 and something people packed into a room fit for like 70. Yeah. And they had to go run and get Del Taco to feed their guests.
That was bad. If you are Latino and you get an invitation for a wedding don't think it's okay to invite your extended family.
If you're a Latino bride who is getting married, put on the wedding invitation. This invitation is good for one person or one person plus one. That's it. Don't write the Ramirez family and expect mom and dad to show up. Because the Ramirez family is going to be the mom, the dad, the 4, 5, 7 siblings, the dog, the aunt, the uncle, the grandma, and all the grandkids. That's how it's going to happen. Yeah.
For our wedding, my mom had to put that on the invitations that went out to my side of the family because we didn't want that issue.
Everybody named Mama's going to bring somebody.
Yeah. So I know we can go on and on with this topic.
But I'm so ready for bed.
We didn't bring in any scripture or anything. This was pure fun because, I don't know, we just like talking about this because this is what we do for a living.
So crazy.
Again, like I said, if you have questions about weddings, if you need tips, if you need our services, send us an email, give us a call.
And send us a meme.
Create a meme.
Create a meme and send it to us.
Yeah. And we'll go from there. You guys have a great night. Wait, before we leave, we got to ride Rise of the Resistance yesterday. What did you think about that?
Life-changing. It was so good.
What did you think about that?
It was so good. Kylo Ren is beautiful and Adam Driver's great. It was wonderful. I loved it.
So we got to Disneyland at 7:15 and there was hundreds and hundreds of people already there. And they don't start distributing the boarding passes until 8 o'clock. So at 8 o'clock, everyone's on their phone trying to click on the app. And we didn't get on until like 4 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm. But it was so cool.
It's an awesome ride.
It was like an out-of-body experience.
Is it better than Flight of Passage?
No. Flight of Passage is the Avatar ride at Walt Disney World, and it's not. Flight of Passage is for sure better.
Huh. Okay.
But Rise of the Resistance was second to that.
Okay. Sure. All right. Cool. All right. That's all we have. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Fathers and Daughters podcast, a Moosegood Entertainment production. For questions, comments, or topic ideas, email fdpodcast@yahoo.com. Please subscribe and tune in every week for new episodes.